emerging markets for Dolby Laboratories. Ashim, good to have you here today. DK Lee, VP Sales APAC for Viaccess-Orca. DK, good to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. And Rishi Varma, Director of Product Management, Akamai Technologies. Hi, Rishi, how are you today?
Fantastic, thank you.
Excellent. So we're going to talk a little bit about customer experience. We're going to talk a little bit about technology. The Vietnam market is a very vibrant market. 93% mobile penetration, a lot of users of OTT services, 60 million viewers a month for YouTube. FTP is approximately 30 million users. TikTok is very popular. Facebook is very popular. But experience really matters. So if you really can't enjoy the film or catch up with your latest sports in low latency, it's not actually going to be a preferable experience. And this is becoming very important to a market that's quickly maturing and has very strong interest in content, entertainment, and sports. So I'm going to start off with DK. We had talked about the importance of low latency, high quality streaming experiences, and how you had some good stories and experiences to share about why quality matters. Can you share a little bit about your experience?
Yes, James. Lately, we have deployed a new end-to-end kind of OTT platforms. So OTT is huge trend in the industry, and it's the same requirement from Vietnam operators as well. So now the decision was from complete IPTV services to a full OTT services end to end. So this is the one that we had experienced already, and we deployed successfully. So the reason that they could make a decision to OTT transition is purely the low latency technology that we could provide together with all ecosystem partners end to end. So it's kind of same experience, compared to the multicast experience. So we can reduce the delivery lead time and for the live sports and news and important content. So it's very, very important to have a low latency. We're using a CMAP. So we are definitely in the middle of this kind of transitions, and we will need for Vietnam market as well. So that's the very important technology trend we see. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was a real challenge to deliver some of the Euros and some of the real big sporting events across multiple partners. But Rishi, you talked about ultra low latency being a reality for live sports and interactive video. What do you see? Is ultra low latency going to drive the experience? What's your opinion?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And over the last few years, we've seen how it sort of plays out. 5-6 years ago, the industry standard was 30 seconds behind TV. And over time, where technology caught up, HLS by itself could do under 10 seconds. But I think the biggest break really came with CMAP and chunk transfer encoding, which DK was alluding to. It's industry defining in so many different ways. One, yes, it brought latency down tremendously, but you could now start syncing your experience on what you see on OTT with what you see on TV, giving a really seamless experience. That's one step in that direction. But also, the pandemic brought out so many different ways in which people consume content. And things like watch along, being able to have talking heads and viewing the same content across different geographies or even different houses, and being able to see the same content and have the same experience that you would do if you were in the same room. Experiences like that are going to drive how video and how sports are consumed, how movies are consumed, how live events are consumed. It's definitely industry defining. In fact, I was just ahead of the panel. I was just reading an APAC report where live streaming is now growing at a much faster rate than VOD and just other media consumptions. So it's right on track.
Awesome. And Ashim, during COVID, we really spend more time enjoying our sports at home, but it sometimes lacks a little bit of the experience. We talked about the ability to deliver a stadium-like or cinema-like experience. Can you share a little bit more about what you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you know, at Dolby, our endeavor is always to create spectacular consumer experiences, whether they are in the cinema hall or in the living room or on the go. And the way we do it is very unique to us. We kind of work end to end. So we work with content creators, the content distributors, and finally with all the OEMs at the playback side. So as you rightly said, I mean, during the pandemic and especially during the last 1.5 to 2 years, we have observed that a lot of home consumption on the devices has increased, which meant people really upscaling their services, the OTT services they are having, as well as the devices. And that's where a big uplift has actually happened, especially in our markets in Southeast Asia, in Vietnam as well, where all the devices have really gone up the ladder in terms of the experience. So for example, our premier technologies, which is Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision, which are actually cinema inspired and now available in the living room. There is enough and more content which is streaming in with the global OTT services and multiple hours of content, different genres of content, different languages of content, which is now readily available to give you that cinematic effect. You can't go to cinema, but you can really get that cinematic effect in your living room. At the same time, sports, as you rightly said, James, I mean, there are so many sporting events which have not stopped happening. I mean, there's still enough content which is there. But how can you get the same feel of the crowds? How can you get the same feel of being there in the match rather than physically being there? But you can really experience that at the comfort of your living room. And that's where the devices which have grown up, whether it is your television or attaching a soundbar or even on the go. And we have worked very closely with the industry to make sure that all this content, whether it is the AV services or the music services or sports broadcasters, are really able to bring that level of expertise in the content and that enrichment in the content to make sure that it's available. And then we work with the OTT services to make sure that it's delivered in the right codecs and the right technology to make sure that the chain is intact. And then we work with all global OEMs to make sure it's played back in the right way. And when you tick box all these kind of check box, that's where you kind of get the best spectacular experience in the comforts of your living room or on the go. So yeah, we have been and we have observed, especially during the pandemic, if you have really high quality devices, it really helps the entire chain because the churn goes down and you are able to retain customers. In fact, you are able to move them especially slightly higher up in the ladder as well. So yeah, I think that's what we have been up to the last few quarters.
Awesome. And with all those great experiences comes also the idea that people are spending more time. DK, we talked a little bit about personalized, so content discovery, personalized targeted advertising, which helps monetization, but it also helps customer experience. Can you talk a little bit about what you mean by a personalized experience and how you're able to understand audiences and to show analytics and drive content discovery and advertising?
Yeah, by looking at the latest, the customers' viewing habit, it's completely different, and they want to have their own, kind of personalized TV experience. So in order to meet that kind of requirement, so among so many contents availability, so you have to improve your viewership engagement with your customers. So in order to do that, I think the importance of data and analytics are increasing. So basically can provide a personalized TV experience based on that, a lot of, the information from data and analytics. So which you can provide the profiling, the personalized TV experience, personalized notifications, so that I think the operator can increase their revenue and maximize content consumptions, and even advertisement revenues can be increased as well based on that personalized TV experience. So that's a key things that the technology providers like VO satisfy a customer as well as the operators in order to meet the ROI, basically. Yeah.
Understood. Rishi, you said people without analytics and visibility are flying blind. What kind of analytics should we be looking for? What are the things you think are critical and help define the best experience?
So for any OTT provider, you absolutely need to know how your consumers are consuming your product. And the best way to the best place to measure that is when they're consuming it, not at the server, not at the origin, but at the client. You need to start measuring those metrics that customers care about. When I hit that play button, how long does it take before the video comes up? How many times do I have to hit the play button before the video comes up? Do I see that little wheel of death come 1 second every minute or 1 second every hour, or no times at all? It's these metrics that make or break your product. And with Akamai, we provide client-side metrics, server-side metrics. We integrate with partners like OVPs in order to publish these metrics down to their platforms. But over and above all, we're now working. We're a big fan of standards, so we adopted CMAF and chunk transfers way back. And in fact, our Will Law from our chief architect was quite instrumental in even defining those standards. So whether it's that or Quick, today we are trying to work on what we call a CMCD, the Common Media Client Data Format. So if anybody, CDN agnostic, platform agnostic, can start putting data in that format, and it can be consumed across a variety of different sources. So we think client-side data is absolutely critical to success. It gives you a view of how your customers are experiencing. It gives you business intelligence on what your customers are viewing, where. Should I buy more of that content? Should I not? Should I place that ad 10 seconds into the video or 30 seconds into the video? What's my abandonment rate changing? These are things that you have to learn, and it will change not just your adoption curve, but as a result of that, the revenues that drag along with it.
Understood. It's an important area, but it's an area that also requires a lot of experience, education, and the knowledge on how to utilize that data. I think the speed of delivery and the ability to create a better experience is critical to growing the revenue, not just growing the market in Vietnam, but growing the adoption and the subscription revenues and the overall happiness quotient. Ashim, you talked about educating the market. You were talking about younger content creators and independent content creators. What's the challenge that you see with bringing up the level of quality and delivery? So not just in the analytics, but what was the areas that you saw was the challenge with independent content creators?
Yeah, and in fact, the way we look at it is, if I generalize the challenge which we have, not just in Vietnam, but probably across multiple countries, is that there's an issue of awareness, there's an issue of education or maybe perception. And generally, people think that is the best quality of AV content, is it really for me? I mean, what do I need to do with it? Or maybe it's for some special occasions and once in a while kind of a thing. So I think those are issues of perceptions and awareness and probably not knowing the better. So if I bifurcate this whole content chain, so to speak, into three big buckets of content creation, distribution, and then playback, and I can then explain probably what we are doing in Vietnam as well as globally as well. So if I talk of content creators, I think again, there's again a perception that either it's too expensive or it'll take me a lot of time, studio hours to do it, or probably it'll rather increase my budget of the show and things like that. But I think today what we are trying to do from Dolby's side is to work with the industry to make sure that we are able to really give this expertise and that experience and that education to the content creators, to the studios, to the technicians, to the sound audio designers, to the mixers, to make sure that they are aware that this is not that difficult, first of all, and it's not that expensive. In fact, there are solutions which are available at different price points, for example. And not only you make your content good, but you really make your content future-proof, because what you're doing now and the way you are really getting your audio and video mixed is going to be survivable for a longer period of time, not just for there and then. So I think that's what we are trying to do and really impart this education, multiple studios and multiple technicians. And we are working very closely with the Vietnamese industry, for example, with VTV, with VTC. We are working very closely with VHD, with Galaxy Play and Capital Studios, just to name a few of the local partners. And we are really investing the expertise part of it to make sure that the industry really gets to the next level. On the distribution side, again, we are working closely with global OTT services, the pay TV operators, and people like Galaxy Play. I mean, I'm happy to share with you that the Galaxy Play, for example, in Vietnam has multiple hours of Dolby-enabled content today, and which is streaming in day in and day out. So I think that's what we are trying to enable and make sure that we work very closely with the industry. But I think one piece which I would say we are really happy and proud of is on the experience side. I think if you look at the way the television industry has kind of transformed itself, the new panels which have come up, they are really powerful at different price points. So it's not that the expensive the better, but you can get that variety at different price points. And if you attach a soundbar, for example, you can get Dolby Atmos even in a really immersive format. So whether it is the picture or it's the audio, you really get the full immersion in terms of your quality of experience you get at the comforts of your living room. And even, I mean, these countries are also mobile first. I mean, a lot of these mobile phone OEMs now support Dolby-enabled technologies in their devices. So, and we are working closely with them in the market to make sure consumers are, first of all, aware that this is available in the market, and then how to get that experience, because you need the right content, you need the right subscription package, and then you need the right device. And it's not that difficult to do it. It's a function of education and really telling people and making them aware. So I would say this is what we have been trying to do in this content chain from creation to experience along with different partners in Vietnam as well as across the world.
Okay. Awesome. Good answer. I'm going to take an audience question. I'm going to go for the first one on churn. Okay, so we've all worked with a lot of different companies, a lot of different clients. What are your best advice for reducing churn? So you made the investment in content. You're trying to deliver the best possible service. DK, do you want to start us off on that one, talking about churn reduction? What are the strategies that you would recommend?
Yeah, I think lately, from our experience, they are using a lot of different mechanisms to reduce the churn. So using the data and analytics. So make sure that you deliver what the customer really needs and find out a content. So that's the very important part. And also you should have several TV monetization options, not only subscription based, So you introduce the ad-supported AVOD kind of options. So you can offer hybrid options for them to choose, and eventually you have more eyeballs, and that induce more ad revenues to have more customers. And also a lot of kind of voucher, the royalty point systems that are used by the customers as well. So yes, a new technology, new kind of marketing approach to retain your customers is required and happening now in the market, basically. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, Rishi, you talked about the spinning wheel of rebuffering, and there was a question that came in. Having worked with so many global broadcasters and direct-to-consumer companies, what are the biggest challenges that you think that we face in enhancing customer experience?
The number one conversation that comes up when we speak about customer experience is the quality of delivery, or delivery excellence. It's something that is so core to how the internet operates, and how human expectations work are so very different. We're used to viewing content in a way that we turn the TV on, it just works. There's no such thing as buffering. There's nothing. And you expect that in every device you see. And what makes it harder is that a lot of the consumption that's happening today over the internet is not just on a mobile phone. Casting is very common, and that drives to the same content being consumed on a 45-inch or a 75-inch screen, not a 4.5-inch or a 7-inch screen anymore. And that drives a plethora of options and conversations for us to come on. So I think delivery excellence is key, but how you address delivery excellence is also very, very interesting. One way that Akamai looks at it is to ensure that we cache and deliver content as much as possible locally. So we try and put our content delivery servers in as many different cities and as many different operators as possible. And as an extension of that, it's not just the content delivery, but the whole experience around it. When I open my app and I scroll, I want the recommendations to be personal to mine, and I want that to show up without me waiting for 3 seconds. I want my app to open and load quickly. I don't want to see a second between each page. And there's a lot of optimization that Akamai brings, is that what everyone thinks of just delivery as delivery, but it's far more complex and sophisticated than that. Two great examples are what happens at the edge are, well, there's edge delivery, but there's also edge compute and there's edge security. Two huge components that are absolutely vital. We're able to run a bunch of business logic at the edge, things like customization, personalization, taking a video stream and helping stitch the right ad in server locally in the same operator that you're delivering from. All of those kind of optimizations are there. And also securing and protecting content as well as your information, the user information, as and when it transverses between your app and going back to the server. These are critical components that ensure that your user experience stays seamless and consistent over time.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask a general question. I'm going to start with Ashim. How do you help your customers to establish good ROIs and KPIs? What are the things you think we should be measuring? And then I'll open it up to the rest of the panel. So what are the key KPIs for you, and how would you help us to understand how to do better?
Yeah, so I'll try to split this into on the content side as well as on the OEM side. So I'll start with the OEM. So I think one of the key KPIs, at least which we have in our region, is to make sure that is the sales growth of the devices which are happening. I mean, it's as simple as that. We are tracking device shipments. We are also tracking the screen sizes coming down. Not just, I mean, these TVs are not only the premium ones or the big size TVs. How are they coming down to, say, the screen sizes which are prevalent in our region, and making sure that we go to the mass segment, not just the premium of the lot, because in a way we need to democratize this technology so it's available to general public and not just at the premium end. So though we started from there, but now I think we are tracking very closely in terms of how we kind of get to different price points, different screen sizes, different brands, and go more deep as well as go more wide with these OEMs. And that's what we track from a shipment perspective, from the device growth perspective, both on the living room devices as well as on the smartphone devices. Now, as far as the content creation is concerned, we try to make sure that we at two things, I would say. One is how many studios or how many, say, post houses we are able to equip and enhance and really make that expertise available in that market, so that there is infrastructure available to support content creation and content creation in the right technology. So I think that's what we track and make sure that we are really imparting that the training. The other part is more generic, I would say, which is really educating more people, more technicians, more people who can really do these shows. So yeah, I think that's what we are trying to do, and making sure that the content which finally gets out of the door is really the best possible quality, and which will ultimately entice consumers and probably reduce churn or acquire new consumers. So I think ultimately those are the bigger or the biggest metrics with at least the services and the content creators are really measuring, and that's what we try to aid and help.
Oh, awesome. DK, same question. What KPIs and what ROI measurements should we have? What are we putting in? What are we getting out? And how do we know more?
Yeah, I think I would like to approach kind of two-way. So first of all, cost reduction side for operators to take an action. So we try to help, as an end-to-end prime SI in case we deliver, the platforms. So they can optimize their video compression, to reduce the cost, and also try to find any angles that they can reduce cost with the latest technology. That's the one way I think they can reduce the basic cost. The second thing is how they can increase their revenue, having a new technology as an example. So we use the kind of advanced analytics and data informations together with the personalized engines, so they can increase the revenues here, there, whatever they can collect, advertisement and like content aggregation solutions. That's kind of new technology that they can maximize their revenue having this kind of technology. So we basically approach with these two ways together with the operators. Yeah. Excellent.
All right, Hrishi, how do we do a better job? What are the things we should be tracking? How do we actually get a better ROI? What's your perspective?
we closely align ourselves with whatever metrics our customers are tracking. And across the region, across industry, across the region in OTT, the three things that customers really care about are startup times, rebuffers, and availability. And we try to bring each of those to its pinnacle as close as possible. But it's also how you measure it. I'm just saying that I'm able to give you, 100% availability across is or 99.9% availability across a country is not good enough. It needs to be granular by operator in a meaningful way that for the business. So that's how we do it.
Excellent. So PwC recently surveyed OTT users, and over 59% said that ease of use and reliability were as important as the content that we're delivering them. So the topic is very relevant, especially in a market that is maturing and growing quickly. Vietnam audiences are very passionate for their digital entertainment. They're very mobile, so it's very personal, the media experience that they get. So I'd like to thank all of you for spending the time with us today and to share with your insights. We'll be sending it back to Louis in a minute. We'd like to thank the entire team from AVIA and our audience for being with us today. We thank you very much. We'll see you all soon.
Thank you very much, James, Rishi, Ashim, and DK. Now, that's it for the morning session, or the sort of the break before lunch. But just before we go, let's take a look at the polling results. So we were asking what the biggest challenge for the streaming industry was in Vietnam. Getting people to pay, generating ad revenues, customer acquisition, subscriber churn, government regulations of piracy. And there you see the results. So really interesting. Getting people to pay is the single biggest challenge that we have. And look, I guess that tallies sort of very neatly with what we were talking about a little bit earlier on about the relatively low level of ARPUs in Vietnam. Piracy, a major concern of 33.3%, government relations, 15% also, government regulations also on people's radar. Interestingly, subscriber churn was not an issue for anybody, but I guess with low ARPUs, subscriber churn becomes a little bit less of an issue. So that's it. As I said, we're going to take a break for lunch, and we're going to be back at 1:30 p.m. local Vietnamese time, 2:30 p.m. Singapore, Hong Kong time. The next session after lunch is going to be from YouTube. How can content providers connect to online audiences successfully and uncover new revenue streams? So get fueled up, have a good break, and we'll see you in a little bit less than an hour. Thanks very much.